This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Today we will be discussing a communicable disease, that is plague. So we will be discussing on plague. If you look at the plague, is a zoonosis actually caused by Yersinia pestis involving rodents and fleas. So it is a zoonotic disease which is mainly involving Yersinia pestis, that is caused by Yersinia pestis involving rodents, that is nothing but rats and fleas. So these are the most important rodents and fleas, and then it is transmitted by infected flea bites. It is transmitted by infected flea bites to the human livings or intruding into the same ecological environment. So mainly this plague is transmitted by infection or infected flea bites. So if the flea bites the person, he is going to get the plague disease. And if you look into the history of this disease, it is called as Mahammari, great death. So previously in the olden days, because of lack of awareness or lack of knowledge about this plague, so if a person if the population gets the plague, automatically there is a deaths will be there. So if you see, look at the scenarios where it caused millions of deaths. You can see the first pandemic, 542. That is almost 100 million deaths happened because people don't know about the plague, its causes, epidemiology, how to control it, and what are the reasons for this. Nobody knows. That's why what happened, almost 100 million deaths happened in the year 552. Whereas if you look at the second pandemic, 1346, in the year 1346, you can see 25 million deaths happened. Whereas in case of third pandemic, you can see the 1984 to 1930. 1984 to 1930 third pandemic occurred. Pandemic means throughout the world. It is present throughout the disease present throughout the world. Like now corona, it is also called as pandemic. So plague reappeared in 1994 after a silent period of 28 years. So for a 28 years there were no cases throughout the world, but it reappeared in the year 1994. You can see first pandemic almost 1,000 million deaths, 1,000 million deaths, whereas second pandemic it is 25 millions, and so on, third pandemic, and then it reappeared in 1994. You can see the problem statement. You can see 1950 almost 40,000 cases occurred, whereas in 1984 3,037 cases appeared, whereas in 1940 declined as a result of national program. They started one program, NMEP. So because of that there was a decline is there. Reappearance in 1994 in Surat. So it reappeared in 1994 in Surat, and the recent cases, that is 16 in Himachal Pradesh. If you look at the agent factors, so Yersinia pestis, it is a gram-negative, non-motile Coccobacillus exhibiting bipolar staining with special stains. So we need to apply special stains like Bason stain. So the stain which is popularly used for this agent is the Yersinia pestis, is the Bason stain. So you have to use Bason stain for this Yersinia pestis. It is a gram-negative, non-motile, so it will not move. Coccobacillus exhibiting bipolar staining. So with special stains there will be different coloring will be there. Bipolar staining will be there. So bacilli occur in great abundance in buboes, blood, spleen, liver, and in sputum. So you can see this bacilli, it may be in the blood, spleen, liver, in sputum. So in almost all parts of the body, but abundantly you can see in blood, spleen, liver, and in the sputum you can see this bacilli. So virulence of the organism is its ability to produce exotoxins, endotoxins, fraction 1, and other antigens and toxins. Why it is very dangerous means because it produces exotoxins and endotoxins which are very harmful, to the body. That's why deaths are more because of this. Yeah, because of this. So virulence of the organism is mainly because of its production of exotoxins and endotoxins and fraction 1 and other antigens and toxins. Because of these toxins, toxins produced by this agent, so deaths will be very more. It can survive and multiply in the soil of rodent burrows where microclimate is favorable. Agent can survive in the burrows of the rats. It can survive and multiply. Not only survive, it can multiply in the burrows of the rodents. So where the rodents will hide in that burrows, that environment is suitable for the growth and multiplication of this. That's why you can find this agent in the burrows of the rodent, in the burrows of the rodents. So where the environment is suitable for the growth and multiplication of this agent. And coming back to reservoir of infection, so what are the reservoirs which will hold this agent? That is wild rodents in mountains, deserts, forests, and cultivated areas. In India, Tatera indica is the main reservoir. So in India, if you India, Tatera indica is the main reservoir, which is the rodent. That is the main reservoir of this agent. Whereas in case of mountain, wild rodents are there, mountains, deserts, forests, and in the cultivated areas, wild rodents are the agents which acts as the reservoirs of this infection. And the source of infection, if you come back to the source of infection, that is infected rodents and fleas. So infected rats and fleas are the main agents which are responsible for, which will act as the source of infection of this disease. Whereas case of pneumonic plague, not all the bubonic, pneumonic, different stages are there in plague, but bubonic is not the source for infection. Whereas if you take pneumonic is very dangerous. Pneumonic is very dangerous. Pneumonic plague is very dangerous. It is also one of the source of infection of this disease. So mainly the source of infection of the disease is infected rodents and fleas. So the main source of infection is the infected rodents and fleas. These are the main sources of infection of this disease. And at the same time, in human beings, there are different phases are there, like pneumonic plague, septicemic plague, and then bubonic plague are there. Among the three, pneumonic plague is very dangerous, and it acts as a source of infection of this diseases. In the human beings, pneumonic plague acts as the source of infection, whereas infected rodents and fleas are mainly act as the source of infection for this disease. Then if you see the host factors, ages and age and gender, you can see all ages and both genders. So there is no discrimination. All the ages will be infected, and all the genders will be infected. There is no discrimination for this. Everybody who comes in contact with the pneumonic plague person, or anybody who comes in contact with the infected rodents or fleas, they are prone to develop the disease. So there is no age discrimination. Even children will get it. Adults are the geriatric population. Every age group is prone to this disease. At the same time, males and females both are prone to this disease. And then human activities. So mainly, what are the activities which are mainly favorable for this for acquiring this disease? Are the hunting. So mainly in the forests, who go for hunting, cultivation. We told previously. So rodents will be there in the forest, as well as in the cultivation areas, right? Harvesting and construction areas where abundant population of rodents will be there. So in those places, people working in those places like forests, crops, or agriculture people, or in the construction workers, where the population of rodents will be very high. So in those areas, if the people are working in that particular areas, they are more prone to develop the disease. They are more prone to acquire this disease, because rodent population will be very high. Especially if you see the hunters, when they go into the forest, maximum number of rodents will be there. Whereas in case of crops also, you can see especially in this Godavari districts, you can see separate rat trappers are there. Rat trappers. So people will be selling those trappers beside the road. You may be watching in front of our college also. Sometimes they will sell these rodent trappers. You can see the people putting the trappers on the cycle, and they will be moving from village to village, and they will be selling that. Because in the crops, because in the agriculture land, in the agriculture areas, maximum number of rodents will be there. Maximum number of rodent populations will be there. So that's why the people working in these agriculture areas, or in the cultivation areas, or harvesting, or the agricultural laborers who are working in the crops, and the construction workers. So construction is a place where the rodent population will be very high. So the people who are working in these popular areas, mainly forest areas, agricultural workers, and then the construction workers, they are more prone for this rodent bites or rodent. They come in contact with these rodents. As a result of that, there is maximum chance of acquiring this disease. And the movement of people and cargo. So where there is a cargo storage is there. So cargo is nothing but a ship transport or a goods transportation. So goods. So in that area also you can find maximum of rodent population. So in that area also there is a chance of transmission of the disease will be very high. Immunity. So there is no natural immunity for this disease. If you look at the immunity wise, there is no natural immunity for this disease. And if you look at the environmental factors, so seasonal, so North India, the plague season starts from September to May. So in the coming September and May, there is a chance up to May, there is a chance that plague may come. So especially in North India, plague season will be from September to May. Southern India has no plague season because in Southern India we don't have the particular time or particular season where we can find the maximum number of cases. So temperature is mainly 20 to 25 degrees centigrade, humidity 60%, rainfall, heavy rainfall, urban and rural fail to get foothold in many towns. And human dwellings, poor housing conditions. So where you can find this maximum number of rodents and fleas is the poor household settings. So if lack of sanitation, lack of hygiene, lack of sanitation, lack of proper construction of houses, proper sewage facilities are not there, waste management facilities are not there. In those areas, you can find maximum number of rodents and fleas. Maximum in those particular areas, especially semi-urban areas, rural areas, where you don't find the sewage system, where you don't find the proper sanitation, people will not follow the hygienic methods. So all these areas, there is maximum chance of growth of these rodents and fleas. And if you are exposed to these rodents, infected rodents and fleas, so there is a chance that you are going to develop this plague disease. And you can see the vectors of plague, that is rat flea, that is Xenopsis, Cheopsis, Astia, Resiliensis, Culex irritans. You can see the figure. You can see the figure here. Vector. That is a flea. That is the rat flea. You can clearly see this. So there are different types are there, like Xenosis, Cheopsis, Astia, Resiliensis, Culex irritans. These are the different types of rat fleas you can find in Indian circumstances. And what are the flea indices? You can see total flea index, that is the average number of fleas of all the species per rat. So maximum number of fleas present, average number of fleas of all the species per rat, that is called as total flea index. That is Cheopsis index, that is the average number of Xenosis Cheopsis per rat. So how many these species, Cheopsis species are present in a single rat, that is called as Cheopsis index. And then specific percentage of fleas, that is percentage of different species of fleas and rats. What are the different species? So if you take one rat, and what are the different types, and what are the percentage of different species of rats in different species of this particular flea in a single rat? That is percentage. If you calculate, that is called as specific percentage of fleas in a single rat, right? Burrow index. So Burrow index means average number of free living fleas per species per rodent burrow. Suppose if you find a single hole, in that you have to search for this fleas. So if you find what are the different types of fleas which are present in a single burrow, right? If you find out suppose 2 or 3 species are present, then you can say burrow index, average number of free living fleas per species per rodent burrow. So for single rat burrow, how many different types of species of rat flea are living in that burrow? That is called as burrow index, average number of free living fleas per species per rodent burrow. So for single rodent burrow, in that burrow you search for rat flea. Suppose if you find 5 or 6 fleas in a single burrow, and among the 5 or 6 you separate them based on their species, right? Suppose 3 belongs to one species and 2 belongs to another species. So 3 belongs to one single species, and 2 belongs to another species. Then it is called as average number of free living fleas per species per rodent burrow. That is called as burrow index. These are the flea indices. Then you can see plague in rodents. So in rodents, plague is primarily a disease of rodents, that is wild and commensal. So wild means which lives in the forest, whereas commensals which live in the households or in the surroundings. You can say domestic, and another domestic also present, that is wild are Tatera indica, and then Bandicota indica. There are different types are there wild which live in the forest areas only. Whereas if you look at the commensals, that is Rattus peridomestic, Rattus norvegicus, there are different types are there. Commensal rodent, that is domestic type, different types are there. So rodents, you can plague in rodents, you can classify into two types, that is wild, that is which are present in the forest, and then domestic type which are present in the home and its surroundings. Then if you look at the epizootiology, that is plague is epizootic and enzootic in wild rodents. That is two ecological cycles are present. That is two different in two different cycles they are present. That is, you can see that is wild plague is one cycle and domestic plague is another cycle. So if you look at the wild plague, which exists in nature independent of human activities. So even though human activity is not there in the forest, wild means which lives in the forest. So if at all human activity is not there in the forest, though human activity is not there in the forest, this disease you can find in the rodents, wild rodents in the forest. That is called as wild plague. So if you find the plague in the rodents in forest, then it is called as wild plague. Wild plague. Whereas domestic plague means plague that is intimately associated with man and rodents living with him. So if you find the plague in the human beings and the rodents living in the household environment, in the household surroundings or household environment, then it is called as domestic plague. Domestic plague, that is which is present in the human beings as well as in the rodents, especially surrounding the houses. Then it is called as domestic plague. So wild plague means which is present in the forest without the involvement of human beings. The disease will be present in the rodents. That is called as wild plague. Wild plague. Whereas domestic plague means that is present in the human beings as well as in the rodents which are living in the household environment. Then it is called as domestic plague. So what are the natural foci of this disease? You can see natural focus of plague is defined as a strictly delimited area where ecological conditions ensure the persistence of the ecological agent for considerable periods of time and where epizootics and period of quiescence alternate without introduction of infection from outside. So this is the natural foci. Long persistence of plague, you can see latent infection will be there in the rodents. So in the rodents, the disease will be present for long period of time without causing any signs and symptoms. In the rodents, it will be present. A development of resistance to plague. So resistance will be developed to plague in the rodents. Survival of rat fleas as long as 4 years in burrows. So this is the most important point which you have to keep in mind, that the rat fleas. So the rat fleas can survive as long as 4 years in the burrows of the rodents. So in the burrows of the rodents, this rat fleas can survive up to 4 years. You can see it can transmit the disease to as much as population as it can, because its survival rate is almost 4 years. Variations in pathogenicity of Yersinia pestis. So there are a lot of variations are there in pathogenesis of Yersinia pestis. Survival, multiplication of bacilli in soil of rodent burrows. So mainly this agent will survive and multiply in the burrows only because the environment is suitable. The environment of that rodent burrows environment is suitable for survival as well as multiplication of the bacilli. That's why they will live in that area for more than 4 years. That microenvironment which is present in the rodent burrows is mainly suitable for the multiplication as well as survival of these fleas, of this bacilli. And then coming to investigations. So what are the investigations you will do for considering it as a plague? So collection and forwarding of dead rats. So you so in the burrows of the rats are dead. So collect them and send them for postmortem and see the disease, whether the agent is present or not. Autopsy and collection of smears. So try to collect as many number of rats, do the autopsy and collection of smears from them, and then animal inoculation, and then pathological changes. You can see edema and necrosis at the site of injection, enlargement of lymph nodes, splenomegaly, mottling of liver, necrosis of lungs, subcutaneous congestion. So you can see all these pathological changes, that is edema and necrosis at the site of injection, enlargement of lymph nodes, splenomegaly, mottling of liver, necrosis of lungs, subcutaneous congestion. So all this you can see in the pathological changes. Then coming back to human plague, so you can see mode of transmission is the bite of infected flea. Bite of infected flea. So the man will get the disease only with the infected flea, and then direct contact with tissues of infected animal. Suppose if he gets contact directly with the infected animal. So mostly you can see this sort of scenarios in the lab workers. So they will be constantly dealing, are the veterinary doctors or veterinary lab persons, those who are doing dissection on the rats. So they are mainly come in contact with this type of rats. So they are more prone for this disease, and especially from human to human. Please remember, this is the most important point. Human to human transmission will take place. Droplet infection from pneumonic plague. This is most important and very dangerous. It is highly dangerous. Pneumonic plague is highly dangerous. So the disease can transmit through droplet infection to other human beings. So the main mode of transmission of this disease is by the bite of infected flea. That is number one. Second one is any human being who comes in contact with the infected animal tissues. That is second one. And third one is the most important and most dangerous form. That is droplet infection from pneumonic plague. So droplet infection happens, that is human to human transmission is also possible. Human to human transmission is also possible in this case, that is pneumonic plague, mainly through droplet infection. So the person who is having pneumonic plague, he can spread the disease to other humans through droplet infection. That's why you have to be very careful with this disease. And if you see the modes of transmission of this disease, that is from rats to rat fleas, then to man. Mode of transmission is mainly from rats to rat fleas, and then to man. Whereas in case of wild rodents, wild rodent fleas are direct contact, that is to man. Wild rodents, peridomestic rodents, commensal rodents, wild rodents and fleas, peridomestic rodent fleas, commensal rodents, fleas, and then to man. Human, that is man, human flea, man, and then man to man. So mainly man to man is in case of pneumonic plague. Man to man is mainly because of pneumonic plague, that too through droplet nuclei. That's why you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful with the pneumonic plague. You can see different cycles, sylvatic cycle, bubonic plague and pneumonic plague. So you can see wild rodent, hibernation, that will lead to infective flea, then winter dormancy, then wild rodent, and then infected flea, that is wild rodent to human beings. It is a chance is there. Then infected flea, then to human beings. Then it is a pneumonic plague, man to man person, secondary plague pneumonia, that is person to person pneumonic plague. This is the urban cycle. You can see this is a cycle of the plague. Here also you can see fleas drink rat blood that carries the bacteria. From there it gives the flat gut. So in the gut it will be clogged with bacteria. Flea bites human, regurgitate blood into open wound, and then again human is infected. So this is a cycle, it will go on. So human flea drinks rat blood that carries the bacteria, so that will enter into the flea's gut. In the flea's gut it will be clogged with bacteria. Then again in the flea bites a human, regurgitates the blood into the open wound, and then human is infected. Human will get infected. So this is the cycle which we will be seeing. This cycle will continue. Then coming to incubation period, that is bubonic plague, that is 2 to 7 days. Septicemic plague, that is 2 to 7 days. Pneumonic plague, that is 1 to 3 days. So among all the three, bubonic, septicemic and pneumonic plague is very dangerous. pneumonic plague is very dangerous. Human to human transmission is possible, and chances of survival from pneumonic plague is very less. And septicemic also chances of survival will be very less. Septicemic and pneumonic are very dangerous. They causes high mortality. Whereas septicemic plague, there is chances of transmission from one person to another person is not there. Whereas in pneumonic plague, chances of transmission is there. That is through droplet nuclei. So you have to be very careful with the pneumonic plague. You can see the disease in man. You can see 3 clinical forms are there. That is bubonic plague. So most common type of disease: sudden fever, chills, headache, prostration, and painful lymphadenitis. So when you get bubonic type of plague, so you are prone to develop headaches, chills, fevers, prostration, and that means severe myalgia and painful lymphadenitis. So lymph node swelling will be there. That is painful lymphadenitis will be present, and then greatly enlarged tender lymph nodes. So lymph nodes will be enlarged, they will be tender, that is very painful, develop in groin and less often in axilla or neck. So the main presenting feature of this is the enlarged lymph nodes, which are very tender, especially in the groin and less often in the axilla or the neck. So you can see the main feature of this is one tender lymph nodes will be there, especially at the groin as well as at the axilla or the neck. It cannot spread from person to person. So bubonic plague is one which will not spread from one person to another person. And the main feature of it is, so there will be tender enlarged lymph nodes will be there, especially in the groin, and sometimes you can find the enlarged lymph nodes in the axilla or the neck. And it cannot spread from person to person. That is the bubonic plague. If you look at the pneumonic plague, so primary pneumonia, pneumonic plague is rare. It follows a complication of bubonic septicemic plague. So bubonic septicemic is a complication of bubonic septicemic plague. It is highly infectious. It spreads from man to man by droplet infection. Bacilli are present in the sputum. So bacilli are present in the sputum. So in the pneumonic plague, it can transmit the disease from person to person, and it will spread the disease from one person to another person. And the bacilli contain the bacillus will be present in the sputum. So that's why droplet infection are very chances of droplet infection is very high, and the man-to-man transmission is possible only in pneumonic plague. And when you look at the septicemic plague, it is a rare except for accidental plague in the face of overwhelming infection. So bubonic plague, there is a chance that it may develop into septicemic plague in the face of overwhelming infection. That means only bubonic plague will land up into septicemic plague if you don't identify the disease at the right time and don't treat it properly, and if you neglect it, slowly it will develop into septicemia. That is called as septicemic plague. So it is very rarely it will be developed. Very rarely it will be developed. Primarily there must be bubonic plague, then only it will lead to septicemic plague. Then prevention and control. You can see control of cases, that is early diagnosis during epidemics on clinical grounds. So based on the clinical signs and symptoms, you can find out the disease. You can diagnose the disease, and other situations by rat falls. So sometimes what happens, you can find hundreds of rats dying in one particular area. So with that also you can identify that there is a chance of spreading of plague in that particular area. In that scenario also you can do the diagnosis. These rat falls will give you a clue that there is a chance of plague in that particular surrounding area. So you can diagnose. So early identification and diagnosis is very important. And then notification. So this disease has to be notified to the International Health Regulations, that is IHR. It is required by IHR, that is International Health Regulation. You have to notify the disease to IHR. Then isolation should be done in all the cases. So all the plague cases must be isolated and treated separately. So care must be taken. We don't know at what point of time they may develop pneumonic plague. So if they develop pneumonic plague, definitely they are going to spread the disease to the other persons. That's why what you have to do is you have to isolate the persons, those who are having the plague, and you have to treat them separately. And coming to treatment treatment for this disease. So treatment is available, and it is and it is accepted, and it is curable. You can see drug of choice is streptomycin, 30 milligrams per kg body weight you have to give. And then if some are sensitive to streptomycin, you can give tetracycline, that is 30 to 40 milligrams per kg body weight. So streptomycin, if somebody is sensitive to that, change the drug to tetracycline, that is 30 to 40 milligrams per kg body weight. And disinfection of sputum, discharges and articles soiled by the patient. So treatment is available, and at the same time you have to take the preventive measures like disinfection of the sputum of the person, of the infected person, and discharges and the articles soiled by the patient. So the articles which are used by the patient or the discharges from the patient must be disinfected properly. And the treatment is available, that is streptomycin 30 milligrams per kg body weight. Or if it is sensitive, some people will be resistant or sensitive to this. Some people will be resistant to, or they will have some complications because of streptomycin usage. So in those scenarios, you can strip the change from streptomycin to tetracycline, that is 30 to 40 milligrams per kg body weight you can use. So these are the control, these are the preventive and control measures, that is early diagnosis, notification of the disease to the international health regulations, then isolation of all the cases of plague, because we don't know which cases of plague will turn up into pneumonic plague. That's why what you have to do is you have to isolate the case, isolate the cases, and start the treatment as early as possible, right? Then treatment, that is streptomycin is available, and then tetracycline is available. Whatever is possible in the inverse scenario, you start the treatment. And then disinfection of the discharges like sputum or any discharge from the infected person, you have to disinfect it. And then the articles soiled by the patient, so the articles used by the patients also you have to disinfect. And then control of fleas. So here we are having, first is human being, second is fleas, third one is rats. So all these three preventive measures you have to follow. Then how to control the fleas? So the most effective method is to break the chain of transmission, that is from rodent to flea, flea to man. So rodent to flea, flea to man. So this cycle you have to, chain of transmission, this cycle you have to break. So by using DDT, BHC or carbaryl or malathion dusting is used to destroy rat fleas. So we have, if you want to control the fleas, you have to destroy the fleas. If you want to control the flea, you have to destroy the flea. So for that, what you have to use is DDT is already available, BHC is available, carbaryl or malathion dusting is used to destroy the rat fleas. So in the introduction, I told you there is a gap of 28 years. In 1994, again it came in Surat. The reason is National Malaria Eradication Program has started. See, in the introduction, I told you, because of the starting of NMEP, National Malaria Eradication Program. So National Malaria Elimination or Eradication Program, we have started NMEP. As a result of that, we started using DDT, BHC, carbaryl or malathion dusting used to destroy the rat fleas. Because of this, there is a gap of 28 years. Because we have destroyed all the fleas by using DDT. So for vector control, in case of vector-borne diseases, especially during malaria, what we are doing is we are spraying DDT, BHC, carbaryl or malathion dusting is used to destroy the rat fleas. So this we have already used in the National Malaria Eradication Program. So as a result of that, all this majority of the rat fleas are destroyed. That's why there is a gap of 28 years. There is a gap of 28 years. Spraying of houses, and then control of rodents. So continuous mass destruction of rodents. So try to kill as much as possible all the rodents. So you have to disinfect all the rodent areas. Use the rodent trappers. Use the rodent trappers or destroy the rodents. As improvement of general sanitation. So general sanitation you have to improve. Improvement of housing. So housing standards or the quality of life also you have to improve. So if you improve all these things, automatically rodents will be controlled. So for controlling the rodents, what you have to do is continuous mass destruction of rodents. So you have to destroy all the rodents. So use disinfectants, use rodent killers, use rodent trappers, and then general sanitation in that particular area, and then housing. So housing standards must be raised, and improvement in the quality of life. So quality of life means hygienic practices they have to follow. So all this will definitely control the rodents. So vaccination is available. Recommends vaccination should only be for prevention, not for control of human plague. So yeah, it is only for prevention of the disease. So vaccination should be carried out at least a week before an anticipated outbreak. Vaccine is formalin killed. So formalin killed vaccine is available. We can use 2 doses of 0.5 and 1 ml at interval of 2 weeks. It is given subcutaneously, boosted every 6 months. So this is the vaccination, that is the formalin killed vaccine is available. You can take that. So just before the season, you have to take it, and that is 2 doses, that is 0.5 ml, 0.5 and 1 ml at intervals of 2 weeks. Subcutaneous you have to take it, and booster at every 6 months. And then what is the prophylaxis? Chemoprophylaxis. So valuable preventive measures, highly recommended. Tetracycline is the drug of choice. So all the preventive measures for the human beings, preventive measures for the rat fleas, preventive measures for the rodents. So all these prevention and control measures you have to follow for all the three things. And then tetracycline is a drug of choice that is available. And then you have to do the surveillance. Surveillance is the nothing but the continuous monitoring of the factors which cause the disease. That is in areas where natural foci exist or where there is past infection. It should cover all aspects of rodent and human plague. That means surveillance includes microbiological surveillance you have to do, serological surveillance you have to do, entomological surveillance you have to do, epidemiological surveillance, and then ecological surveillance. So there are different types of surveillances are available. So you can go for microbiology surveillance, serological surveillance, entomological surveillance, that is about the vector, serology about the blood, then blood for any antibodies or any other thing you have to search for the bacilli, the serology, microbiology, then epidemiology, agent, host and environment you have to study. Ecologically, what is the environment, microenvironment suitable for the multiplication as well as survival of the rat fleas and rodents. All these ecological factors you have to study. So these are the different types of surveillances which are available, which you have to carry on, when there are natural foci or where there is past infection in a particular area. You have to do all these surveys. And then health education, facts about the plague. So about the epidemiology of the plague, infection, its signs and symptoms, prevention, vaccination, everything you have to explain to the population. And cooperation from the community. So you have to cooperate with the community and you have to take help from the community also, so that it can be plague can be controlled. Prompt reporting of dead rats. Suppose if you find majority of the rats dead at one place, so immediately try to notify or try to intimate to the nearest medical and health officer, so that he can identify them properly and do the necessary surveillance activities in that particular area. And prompt reporting of suspected human cases. Suppose if you find out any cases who are suffering with the signs and symptoms of plague, immediately you have to notify to the nearest medical officer, and then you have to take the necessary, and he will take the necessary steps for prevention and control of the plague in that particular area and treatment of the infected persons. So this is about the plague. So any doubts are there, you write down, and when you come back, we will discuss. Now give your attendance. Number 1. Now give your attendance. Hello. So I will call randomly. Just answer your roll call randomly. I will call. Number 7. Number 7.
Present, sir.
18.
Present, sir.
18.
Present, sir.
31. 31.
Sir, present, sir.
What is your name? 31.
Sir, Jyoti Prakash.
Okay, right. 44.
Present, sir.
What is your name?
44 present, sir. Srujana, sir.
Right. 58. 58.
Present, sir.
Madhuri,
Present, sir.
నా నెంబర్ వచ్చిందమ్మా
71, రాలేదమ్మా ఇంకా వెయిట్ చేయమ్మా. 71,
Present, sir. 71 present, sir.
Deepthi,
Yes, sir.
84,
Present, sir.
Namba
Sir, present,
Sivarao,
sir. Sir, present, sir.
97,
1 present, sir.
97 present, sir. Sir, 3
Ravi,
present. Yes, sir.
97, Ravi,
97 present, sir.
111, 111,
111 present, sir.
Lakshmi Tulasi,
Yes, sir.
125, 125, Reshma,
Present, sir.
139,
Present, sir.
139,
139 present, sir. Present, sir.
Ramesh,
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
154,
1 present, sir.
1 present, 154, 154, 154, 154,
Sir, take roll number wise, sir.
yeah, I'm taking first I will take 154. 154 is there or not? Is not answering. So 1 to 10. Please
1
answer 1 to
present,
10.
sir. 1
Right?
present,
2
sir.
present, sir.
Right?
3 present, sir. Number
Very
3
good.
present,
4
sir.
present, sir.
Very good.
5 present, sir.
Very good.
6 present, sir.
Very good.
7 present, sir.
Very good.
8 present, sir.
Very good.
9 present, sir. 9 present, sir.
Right?
10 present, sir.
Very good. 11. 11 to 20. 11 to 20.
12 present, sir.
13 present, sir.
14 present, sir.
15 present, sir.
Good.
17 present, sir.
18.
18 present, sir. 18 present, sir. 19
18
present.
present. 20.
19.
20. 21.
21 present, sir.
22. 22. 23.
23 present, sir.
24. 24. 25.
Present, sir.
26.
26 present, sir. Present, sir.
27. 28.
present, sir.
Yes. 28.
Present, sir. 28 present, sir.
29. 30.
29 present, sir.
31 present, sir.
30 present, sir.
Present, sir.
31 present.
32 present, sir. 32
33.
present, sir.
32 present. 33 Ishwar.
Present, sir.
34.
34 present, sir.
Very good. 35.
35 present, sir.
36.
present, sir.
Present, sir.
35 present. 36.
36 present, sir.
37.
Present, sir.
38.
38 present, sir.
39.
39 present, sir.
40.
40 present, sir.
41. Okay, thank you. All are present.